few years ago, when the Ravens were playing the Broncos, they were in garbage time, and the Ravens actually tried to gain yardage on the ground because they had an ongoing record of consecutive games with 100 team rushing yards. Not exactly the Joe DiMaggio hitting streak of the NFL. But they, instead of just calling it quits and going home, they tried to gain yardage. They got to 100 yards, and Vic Fangio, then the coach of the Denver Broncos, was pissed about it. And the Ravens got defensive, and, this is an important record. They eventually got to 43 games, tied with the Steelers. 43, that's the record. That's when it ended. Last night was their opportunity to get to 43 again with a chance to break it against the Steelers next week. And they had it. They had 100 yards. But because the Bengals didn't convert the two-point conversion and the Ravens got the ball back and they took one knee, that dropped them from 100 to 99. They blew it, Rodney. They blew it. And maybe they matured and realized we still should take the knee. Because God forbid, if they would have tried just to gain a yard there and they fumble and the Bengals win the game, they do the old, remember, what was it? It was Joe Pisarcik and Larry Zonka and Herm Edwards from the 70s. Like, they did the smart thing, but they blew their record because they took one knee last night. Because it's such a stupid thing. And they actually prioritize it. I mean, they had the record for consecutive preseason wins, and they thought that was a big deal. There's one thing that matters, getting to the Super Bowl and winning it. All that other stuff is just noise. But I just think it's funny how their latest attempt at setting and breaking that record fell apart because they did the smart thing. They took the knee and went home.
Teams love records, and they pay attention to all that stuff. And it's funny that you're so passionate about it.
I just think the whole thing has been hilarious, and it's been a running thing here on the show ever since that happened a few years ago and Fangio got upset. So it's been coming. It's been creeping in that direction. I thought they would get there, and they didn't. All right, we're halfway through the season. Ask Rodney time on PFT Live presented by Accenture. Best trade deadline acquisition in Rodney Harrison's opinion?
I would say two guys I would have to talk about. Marshon Lattimore, being able to get a cornerback of his caliber and be able to add him midway point of your season and really an all-pro type player. And he's going to be excited. You're going to see a different Marshon Lattimore because he's in a better situation. They're winning. He has a young quarterback. They got a really good young upcoming defense. He's going to be a lot happier there than in the New Orleans Saints uniform. But
I also think, Rodney, go ahead. I was just going to say it sends a message to the league that the Commanders aren't content to just possibly be contenders. They're going to make a move that will maybe prepare them to be competitive in the postseason.
Absolutely. And I look at another guy, Za'Darius Smith. I mean, this guy is a pro with the Detroit Lions, and he's very similar to Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, this guy he's a big guy. He plays with a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. He's a great locker room guy. He plays both the run and pass. He's got a presence there, and it's going to help him out with all the experience that he has. And he's played on the top defenses in the National Football League, so he knows how to get to the quarterback. He knows how to lead, and I believe that Za'Darius Smith really makes them a legitimate defense. I felt like they were missing something up front, and he gives them the toughness. He gives them the experience that they need.
I'm surprised they waited so long to add another pass rusher after the Aiden Hutchinson injury. My only guess, somewhat informed speculation, would be the teams were trying to get too much from the Lions for whichever pass rushers were available. So that's why it went right up until the deadline to get the best possible deal and get it done. All right, who is Rodney Harrison's midseason offensive player of the year?
It would be Saquon Barkley. I think he's been terrific over Derrick Henry. And the Philadelphia Eagles wouldn't have a chance if it weren't for this guy. He's playing great, catching the ball out of the backfield and running in between the tackles. We saw what he did last week, Mike, jumping over guys. He's been great.
You know, the Heisman Trophy, that pose, that iconic pose that goes to the best college football player of the year. They need to take that moment where he backward hurdles over the defensive player and turn that into a trophy of some sort that goes to someone in the NFL. That moment needs to be memorialized forever. It was incredible. And the video, I don't know if you've seen it, Rodney, there's a low-angle video of the sideline as this play is happening, and the Eagles players and coaches lose their minds when Barkley goes. It looks like it's been altered. It is incredible what he did there. Okay, defensive player of the year halfway through the season. Rodney, who you got?
I'm going with Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, he's been fantastic. I mean, he's been the difference maker on that team. It hasn't just been Kirk Cousins, but he's been such an impact player for the Atlanta Falcons. He's been great in pass coverage, just a leader all over the field. Who's been better than him? You can say maybe Kyle Hamilton, but I believe that this guy's been the best player, defensive player in the National Football League so far, Mike.
And another example of a Bengals player that they didn't keep. They think they can draft the replacement, and that guy steps right in, and Dax Hill was supposed to be the Jesse Bates replacement. They franchise tag him. They keep him. They let him go. And he goes to Atlanta, and he plays as well as he ever has, if not better, and he's helping the Falcons get it done. All right, lastly, MVP. Now, I pitched it as a surprise. I didn't know who it was. I see who it is now. I don't think it's all that. I mean, at the start of the season, we just said this is a surprise. I think people are warming up to your midseason MVP.
Yeah, and it would be Jared Goff, and just the way he's played, how consistent he's been, staying away from turnovers. I mean, he's been the calming force of that team. His teammates believe in him. They trust him, and he's gained a lot of confidence. The offense coordinator, he's done a really good job with Jared Goff. I just like where he's headed. If it's not open down the field, he's going to check it down to his backs, and he's been fantastic. Jared Goff is my MVP, Country Club.
And if they finish, hey, when he showed up with those two gloves on last Sunday, it took me back to that Bears game in 2018 where that nickname first popped up. But you know what the Lions have done with him, because the Rams were finished. They have pushed his buttons, and they have coached him, and they have challenged him, and they have persuaded him to become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.